Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 multiplayer is an incomplete game that has a lot of issues, but is also quite fun. Thankfully, none of these missing features or problems are game breaking. So the game can be quite enjoyable in the right situations with the right mindset. I played the beta, I have been level 55 for some time, I've used every gun in the game, I have multiple gold guns, so hopefully I can provide you guys with a thorough review. Let's start with the positives, then jump to the negatives. First and foremost, the game has a modern feel to it, specifically the guns. They feel good, better than old school weapons from Cold War or Vanguard. Shooting them is very satisfying. The noise killing an enemy in-game makes is actually a very nice addition. And drop shotting is solid, which was a nice improvement from the beta. There are also definitely some good maps. A few of my favorites include Farm, Al-Bagra, El Asilo, and Zarqwa. It's also nice flexibility to have a kill streak or a score streak option. I do like that. In terms of the camo system, it is very easy to get gold guns, which I do actually enjoy. Basically, this makes the game more fun for casuals and sweats, right? You don't necessarily have to grind and play the game a ton just to get a weapon gold. There are also a ton of other cool camos that you can specifically unlock if you aren't a fan of gold or don't want to grind for each gun. These camos are unlocked across all weapons, which is a nice feature. I do also like that there are a ton of in-game settings for PC, but also on console, you can tweak a lot of things for your controller and your setup, so you can play the game the way you want to. Another positive that I see is that the game runs much smoother than I would have expected. It's easy to tab out. My FPS is pretty solid. My game hasn't been crashing too much. You also get into games really fast. There's a low waiting time in between lobbies, which I think is really solid and goes a long way. Another positive is that knifing or meleeing isn't actually very good. Back in the original Modern Warfare 2, that was super annoying about how powerful it was, right? You'd be running around, you'd see someone around a corner, a good player would drop shot and hip fire, a bad player would just panic and knife and kill you. That isn't the case anymore, which is great. Also, death comms in this game are great. That in-game voice chat is always hilarious and provides a lot of entertaining moments. All right, let's move on to the negatives. So the game really feels like V2 of the beta, with the more complete game being released at the start of Season 1. Examples being there's no combat record or challenges. There's only 10 6v6 maps at launch. There are 2 more being added in. There's no battle pass. You can only level up to level 55. Prestiges are being added in, but I mean, it's pretty crazy that 2 weeks into the game, you can already be max level. That just seems odd and makes the game feel incomplete. Overall, another large negative is that the game really promotes camping for the average player to get kills. Some examples of this are there's really slow health regeneration. That's been in CoD for quite some time and has always annoyed me. It takes forever to call in streaks, field upgrades, anything like that is really slow. If you're calling in a UAV, a counter UAV, and popping your dead silence, you're sitting in a corner there for an hour and it can be pretty frustrating. Score streaks also don't stack. They don't count towards your current streak, right? So if you call in a VTOL, the kills that the VTOL get don't actually help you get to an advanced. And those score streaks don't stack, so if you have an advanced, you don't restart your streak again. So let's say you're using UAV VTOL advanced, you can't get those streaks again in the same life. You have to die, which just doesn't really make any sense and hurts better players. And even an average player that is going on a good streak, not really necessary. There are also some bad maps. Border Crossing and Turok come to mind for me. Border Crossing, when I first saw the map, I was like, oh, this is kind of troll. This is kind of meme. This could be fun. I played it. It's awful. There's also no ability to vote on maps or skip maps. Why not? This used to be in the game. It's always been a very popular feature. Why remove it? The radar in UAV also sometimes seems inaccurate. That could just be because there are a lot of weird spawns and the UAV scans are a bit slower, but something feels off there. Another negative, kind of on a similar note, is that the perks seem a bit glitchy. Scavenger, EOD, Tac Mask, Ghost just also aren't that good. And on the perk system, I don't really have a big problem with the fact that you don't get all your perks right from the start. It isn't a good change for sure, but it isn't horrible. There's nothing so super terrible about it. Another negative, again, small quality of life, is why was the in-game kill streak counter ever removed? You don't know what streak you're on when you're working towards a nuke, which just makes no sense, and it seems like a staple of Call of Duty and a very easy thing to include. In terms of the attachments, the weapon tuning, the gun unlocking, I like that it's all there and that you have the customization options and all that's there, but it's just really confusing and seems like too much. It could be simplified and even just needs to like work better. Like a lot of the attachments for the weapons are actually bad. Like they just provide negatives that don't make it worth it. And so I'm using like very base guns, sometimes with just 1 or 2 attachments as opposed to all 5. That just seems counterintuitive and doesn't make sense and makes me ask why. The UI is pretty awful. This is something that we've seen and heard in the community frequently. Definitely a problem. Last but not least is skill-based matchmaking. This could be a whole separate video, but basically it's annoying, but it's not terrible. Overall, I've really enjoyed playing this game. A lot of that can be attributed to my excitement for Warzone 2 and just being back in a party with the boys. But that is what gaming is all about, and if Modern Warfare 2 gets you there, then so be it. Ultimately, this game is not a must-buy. I wouldn't log in and play it by myself, although to be fair, that can be said for most multiplayer games. But if you have some free time, some spare cash, this game can provide a lot of enjoyment getting back to the old school nostalgia of Call of Duty with friends. I will be streaming and pumping out a ton of content for Warzone 2, so if you enjoyed this review, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button to stay tuned for more videos. Cheers.